Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Andy Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Samantha McGuiness. Hi, Samantha.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. We're going to have an amazing conversation. And I'm going to read your bio and then we'll tell the listeners what it's going to be all about. But first of all, I'd like to give a big shout out to Brianna Hetherington, which she introduced us. And Brianna is just amazing in making connections. And I did a great episode with Brianna. I'm going to record another one very soon. And it is just, she helps so many people. And I will put that episode in the show notes so people can listen to her and definitely enjoy that episode as well.
Brianna is the best at making connections. I've never met anybody better, so shout out to Brianna.
Absolutely. So thank you, Brianna, and I hope you enjoyed that episode as well. All right, Samantha, now I'm going to read your bio, which is amazing. So you are the founder of Enabled and the Face-to-Face Marketing Network, and the leading authority on events, home shows, and retail lead generation for the home remodeling industry. You know, that is so important. I was just talking to one of my clients today, and he gave me the stats of basically he generates basically the amount of money that he spends on trade shows is about 4% of the overall revenue that he gets from his marketing, which is amazing compared to 15, 20% that sometimes you have to invest with the online marketing. So it's definitely super, super effective. And you have helped contractors generate tens of millions in annual revenue through your systems for appointment setting, training, KPIs, and operational excellence. Known for your energy, for sure. I can definitely attest to that. Strategy and no fluff leadership. You are recognized as the go-to expert companies call when they want measurable results fast. And it is absolutely true. So Samantha, we're going to talk about that. And, some of our listeners are not necessarily contractors, but it still applies. It's that type of marketing, and the advice that you have to give applies to everyone. So absolutely. I'm sure everybody can benefit from it. And sometimes it's actually good to hear something from another industry that is not yours, because then you can get bright ideas on how to implement it to you. So that's very important.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah. So how did you get started?
Great question. When I tell the story of how I got started, I actually go back to building a landscape construction company in Toronto, where I'm originally from. And the way that we generated leads, we did a lot of what's now deemed kind of old school marketing strategies. So things like direct mail campaigns, but we would do, we would put little items in the envelope and things like that. But our main business came from commercial contracts. So if you think big businesses and plants and things like that, I would get in one of the pickup trucks, the snow plow on it sometimes, which was really scary. And, I would go in person and introduce myself to the company. I could, wear heels and I would almost slip on their stairs. I knew that they needed snow clearing and salt and things like this. And I would go in person and connect with them, build relationships. But in all honesty, the face-to-face connection, nobody was doing that then. Even this was a very long time ago. This is probably 15 years ago. And it really worked for us. It cost us pretty much nothing. And that's usually what I say. But now that I really think about it, when I was in elementary school, I don't know if when you were in school, they gave you these things to sell. It was like magazines or anything
Yeah.
like that. And you were supposed to sell it to your
Mhm.
friends and your family. But my younger sister and I went door to door. And this was so unsafe. And I don't know why we were allowed to do this. I don't even know if our parents knew. We would go door to door in our neighborhood all evening after school and get people signed up. They would buy all these like magazine subscriptions and all these things. And I realized that was face-to-face marketing. And I don't think about it now. I didn't make any money, which is terrible. I probably won a beanbag chair or something. But everything that, humans like humans and humans need humans. And so a lot of what I do is all about the human connection. However, I think very, logistically speaking. And so we create systems around anything that is repetitive, that won't interfere with the customer experience. What I mean by that is a lot of the time I see companies, even in tech or home remodeling or whatever it may be, they leverage AI and they leverage technology and it seems more efficient, but they're ruining their customer experience, which is not the route that we want to go. So, I kind of summarize all this to say that I've been doing face-to-face marketing for a million years and but with sense though, with logistics behind it and operational perspective behind it and for results, ultimately for results.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you started your own company.
Well, I missed an important step. So I was hired by Renewal by Anderson of Greater Toronto a very long time ago, and they were a startup when I was hired. So I was actually responsible for building out their events, home show, and retail store department from the ground up. The most incredible thing about Renewal by Anderson is that there's a lot of incredible things about that company. The best part to me was the network that they have amongst every location. So we would go to different I would go to different locations and learn how they were doing things, or I could fly here and fly there and learn these things and take it back and build it in Toronto, but differently, build it my own way. And it was a really incredible experience because they put no limits on me, which could have gone really bad for them if I was somebody else, but it worked out really well. We won Events Team of the Year, I think in 2019. So out of 115 locations, we produced the most, incredible results. And I'm really grateful. I'm very blessed to have worked there. I'm still very close with a lot of people from that company. They're amazing people. And that's kind of where most people know me from is when I was working at Renewal by Anderson. I got to build something from the ground up, made a million mistakes, made more than mistakes than anybody on this planet when it comes to face-to-face marketing. And for that reason, I know what I know now, and I get to help companies not make the same mistakes that I made and go through the same kind of challenges and struggles and delays or costs of doing things the wrong way because I've seen it all types of ways. And I think, what we have is really the most optimal way to build a face-to-face marketing department.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about those mistakes. I want to know what those mistakes were, and probably our listeners as well.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is going to be around hiring. So, and I see companies do this left, right, and center even now in every department is hiring people because you need people. And that is a huge mistake when you're not constantly recruiting or and recruiting the right way, you will keep the wrong people because you need them. And it's safe and it's comfortable and it can really it can prevent your results. And so, I definitely have made that mistake, being really aggressive with growth, maybe growing too fast and not in a systemized way. Shout out to Addie. I've definitely hired the wrong people. I've hired the wrong way. I've hired just because I needed people. And we don't do that now. We think long term. We ask really objective questions. We're not there for warm bodies. We're there for longevity and high performance. Nobody's perfect. I think one of the things that I did when I was first starting out in hiring for events, home show people was hiring, specifically looking for a background in what I was coaching them on, which you don't need that. Nobody does what I coach on. Most people have never done that before. So to expect that it's not going to happen. Not only that, but people who have done home shows and events, most of them are doing it completely wrong in my eyes. And so hiring people who have done something but done it the way that you don't want it to be done, it's really tough to break people out of a
Yes.
certain type of mindset. So hiring, the wrong people for sure. And I
So
would say,
what are you when you're hiring now? What do you hire for? Because I agree with you, is you don't want that baggage to come and then you can't really train them, or they think that they know best, or etc. So what do you hire? What do you look for right now?
I'm such a practical person, and I think that's why I'm great in business is because I'm very practical. I understand humans, but I'm practical. So for example, when you're looking for somebody to work in your home show and events team, they need a part-time role. So we need to ask questions around their availability that aren't saying, hey, this is a part-time role. Can you work part-time hours? They're going to say yes. That's not how we ask questions. So, you know, the one of the things that we look for is practically speaking, does it make sense logically? Does this make sense that this person fits for this role? Is this role a fit for this person? Will they like the role? Will they show up for the role? Why will they show up for the role? What is their why? These are the things that are, you have to ask a lot of questions around this and you have to be objective. Does this person have a goal? Are they just looking to do something in the interim? Are they looking to do something until they find what they're really after? Because I promise you, the way that we interview and the questions, we have, a set of questions that we ask on a pre-screen in the customized questions on an online ad, on the in-person interview. We have a whole process to everything we do, and those questions will get to the bottom of that quickly. And it's the same way we set an appointment in the field. We want to be very deliberate and intentional with everything that we do because time is never on our side. So we want to be, of course, we want to have fun with work and we want to laugh and all those things, but we need to produce results. Otherwise, we don't really have any work to do if we don't have any results. So.
That's for sure. Yes. Okay, good. So that's the hiring. Now, what other mistakes have you seen?
Oh my goodness. For me, I see a lot of mistakes. Some of the mistakes that I see if I go to a home show and let's say I'm spot checking a client or I'm mystery shopping or doing something like that, or I'm just walking through a home show, I see a lot of asking wishy-washy type of questions on the opening line. So if you are a window and door company, as an example, you're not going to be able to help the company if they or the homeowner if they need a roof or a bathroom or whatever it may be. And so asking, what brings you to the show today? You're done. You've lost them. The average attention span on a human being is a few seconds and people don't really want to stop. So if they don't know what you want from them and they're not clear that what you want from them aligns with what they need, you've lost them. And so I think that's a huge mistake. We see a lot of people sitting in the booth waiting for a customer to kind of approach them, and that's not customer centric. That's not how we don't want to represent our company like that, and it's certainly not going to get you the results that you need to justify the cost of doing a show, a retail store or an event or anything. Staffing the booth with sales reps. Sales reps should be running your appointments and not working the show. They can overqualify leads. They can do all types of things. We love sales reps. However, they shouldn't be working your shows or events. Neither should your office staff. You should be hiring specifically for that function. And I'm a huge believer in everybody owning their role. Everybody should have a really clear understanding in a company of what they're responsible for, how to thrive in the role, and how to just utilize their God-given gifts to be fruitful in whatever it is that they're doing. And I think there's a lot of overlap in companies. And when you have that sort of overlap, you don't really get a lot of ownership or the results that you need.
Absolutely. Okay, so you mentioned so much. So and I understand the mistakes. Let's go over what's the right way of doing it. So if you see somebody in the show and you're working the show, of course, asking them what brought you to the show, people are not going to start engaging this conversation because you're not going to get the results. So what do you suggest? How do we approach? Let's say you are in the booth. I'm a homeowner. I'm walking by. What would you ask me?
What company am I representing?
A window and door company.
How old are your windows and doors? That's what I'm asking you.
Wow. Immediately, boom, I have to think about my windows. Because if you ask me, like that's the effect it creates on me, right? Because if you ask me like what brought you to the show, like what, none of your business. What are you talking about? I don't want to talk to
Yeah,
you,
it's
right?
invasive. It's like, what are you trying to get at here?
No, it's yeah, I mean, how old are your windows can be invasive, not invasive, but it's a question like, oh, my windows are like 10 years old. Okay, 20 years old. But
Yeah.
that's a good one.
We there's a lot that goes unsaid when it comes to nonverbal communication. So we're exciting at a booth. We're smiling at a booth. Our arms are like this. How old are your windows? It's not me saying, how old are your windows? Like I'm interrogating you. And so the point is that if somebody needs windows, they're likely to stop in that moment and answer the question. And then you have a method, if you work with me, if you're one of the incredible companies who works with me, you have an entire methodology on how to qualify and set that appointment on the spot. It's not tricking the homeowner into an appointment with you'll get a this if you sign up for this, and somebody just signs up because they want to get something for free. Okay. We don't even know if that person's qualified. Do they even own a home? Do they live within your territory? There's so many questions when you go about things that way. And so we have a whole process that has been built over years and years and years, which has proven to be massively successful. And when followed, produces the highest return on investment in any other lead source.
Absolutely. So when you go to this again, it applies to any industry. I was just talking to a client today that they're in a completely different industry, not in the home business. But they have to go to trade shows in their particular field. And one of the things that they mentioned is that there is such a huge difference between preparing and knowing how you're going to behave, what are you going to say, that there is a process for
Mhm.
running the show as opposed to just showing up and bringing staff that the only thing that they're thinking about is like, the after hours or what they're going to do after work or sitting in a booth and doing nothing. I mean, it makes a huge difference. You have to be prepared. You have to train your staff on what you want them to do, and you have to do it every single time the same to replicate the success, right?
Absolutely. And to be able to analyze your results, because if you're not replicating things and doing things, and here I'm not saying do the wrong things over and over again. I'm saying when you have a system that works, a script that works, utilize it no matter what show you are at. It doesn't matter if you're at, I've done crazy shows in I'm trying to think of an example, but like if you think about a pet expo, that's kind of off for a home improvement company. It doesn't matter that I'm at a pet expo. I'm not asking about your dog. I love dogs. We have a partnership with the Humane Society. We sponsor a dog for every person who signs up with us on their behalf, on behalf of their company. I have dogs that, we love dogs, but we're asking about your windows if we're a window company, or your bathroom, or your roof, or your siding, or whatever it is that we have. And you know what the best part of that is? If they don't need us, perfect. We're not there to convince them to need us, because does that benefit us and does it benefit the homeowner? It doesn't. So marketing is customer centric. It should be just like sales. Customer service and marketing, they're the same thing. And it's about alignment. If somebody doesn't need what you have, tell them to have a beautiful day. But what we don't want to do is try to con somebody into doing something that's not going to be helpful for them or ultimately helpful for our customer, or set an appointment that's going to cancel, because it's a very expensive thing to do. If your set rate or your issue rate is anything above 70 or below 70%, you're being inefficient with your processes for sure.
Exactly. And just wasting time. So it's not about being busy, it's about being effective. So that's very, very important. And I agree with you. So, what are some of the tips that you can give our listeners to be successful at a show?
My biggest tip would be to build a department that operates as a business and runs year round. So not to build a just to do a home show. If you have two home shows, a spring and a fall home show throughout the year, that's not what I do. We teach companies you can take our stuff and do that, but you would be leaving so much money on the table. My best advice would be to build a year-round department that constantly, consistently generates qualified appointments. We don't even use at Enabled, we don't use the term lead. Well, I don't know what a lead is. We use the term appointment. Because a lead is a way, we're there to qualify and set appointments. And so, a name and a number doesn't do much for our business. It happens, but that's not our goal. And so that said, when you build a department that every single weekend you're generating qualified appointments, helping homeowners who need what you have because you have an exceptional service. So selling to them is good for them. Okay. We don't work with companies who don't do a good job on their customer, for their customer. We don't do that. If you have a 1-star on Google, we're not going to work with you because you got to fix some things first before we can help you get more unhappy people. But that said, building a year-round department, what that does is that keeps you accountable to doing things the right way. So hiring a team, because if you only have 2 home shows a year, who's going to work those home shows? You're going to pull the people from your office, which makes sense. So we want companies to build a year-round department. It's in their benefit to do so because field marketing, face-to-face marketing, the terms are used really interchangeably in this industry, but it is the lowest cost of marketing. It is the most profitable lead source you're going to have. We've said this a couple of times now in the home improvement industry specifically. It is proven year over year. You should take your marketing dollars and say, hey, we have X amount of money to spend every month after home shows and events. What's left over for everything else? Because that's the most profitable way that you can grow your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. Samantha, if people want to hear more about you, learn more about what you do, they want to talk to you, how can they get a hold of you?
A couple different ways. So we have our main website is enabledremodeler.com. We also have a program, it's called the Face-to-Face Marketing Network, where companies participate in our program. They get group coaching. They have an online learning system. They get access to all of our SOPs, our scripts, every process you could think of when it comes to recruiting or inventory and getting into retail stores, things like this, maximizing your Costco partnership. A lot of my clients are in Costco and we help them drive ridiculous amount of income from that program. And so, the face-to-face marketing network.com is another way. And yeah, a lot of people know who I am. So if you don't know me, you can go to those websites. If not, you can call me or email me.
Absolutely. And who wouldn't? I mean, you have everything. You have the systems. It's basically plug and play and get the revenues in these proven systems that you have proved products and results time after time. So definitely reach out. Our listeners, please reach out. And I know that Samantha can help you. Samantha and the team can help you. Samantha, it's been a pleasure having you on this podcast. What a great conversation. And everything in your bio is correct. You are known for your energy, strategy, and no fluff leadership. We can totally see that. And and thank you for all the knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.